That's what it comes down to for me is picking a target, and I decide whether or not I'm gonna hit it. Nobody's stopping me or holding me back. Monsters under your bed. We are monsters. Oh, we are monsters. Oh.
Hey guys, Nate Maddox here, coming to you from home base in Brentwood, Tennessee, hanging out with the team. I have a very special guest today. Very honored and privileged to, first of all, just be in the fight with this guy, just be in business with him, watching him grow. He's an absolute warrior, an absolute crusader for what we do. And it's a very exciting time right now, just watching him grow over the past year, and now implementing phase 2 of our plan, where everything that we've learned here, everything that we've done, watched it grow, trying to build a base shop in a brand new market, knowing nobody, and now is branching out to do the same thing, traveling to Kentucky. We are expanding. Mr. Christian Pounder. Christian, how long have you been with me?
Hey, Nate. Yeah, first of all, I'm grateful to be here and I'm grateful to hang out with you as well. I've been with you August of 2016 is when we first locked arms.
And that was just working in the office then?
Yeah, so just knowing you.
How long have you been in business?
I've been in business.
Partner? Probably
about a year.
Right, a year.
I'd say, yeah, right at about a year.
January, February of 17.
Yeah.
So there's many do, but for those that don't, just give us a quick, be as detailed as you want, but just give us a brief summary of where you were, before you made the decision,
mm-hmm.
or what things were going on before that happened.
Okay. Well, I won't go into too much detail as far as my past, but I will say, when we met, I was working in Loxley, Alabama, and it was summer. Consistently that year was well over 95 degrees every day. So, if you can imagine, it was pretty tough working out there in a flat field full of flowers. You talk about bugs everywhere. Just not the best job. I was thankful for it. Worked hard. So I was working at a nursery, and just by happenstance, me and Nate met at an event, and he calls me about 2 months later. And I remember, I'll never forget this call. I was eating lunch in my truck in the parking lot, and you asked me if I wanted to make some extra money. And I said, well, yes I do. I'm making $10 an hour, and it's, not a whole lot, so sure I do. So then we just got together. I started coming over in free time and checking out what you were doing. Didn't have any idea. It was all Spanish. But I kept coming back because I just had the feeling that it was something that I needed to be doing. And here we are now.
So did you have any business experience, tell us about your record here of insurance industry and financial services experience, your long tenure of business.
Yeah, that's going to be a short conversation. I had zero experience of life in general, basically. Just a kid trying to figure it out. Went to like a semester of college, hated it, didn't like it, barely graduated high school, didn't hardly go. Just didn't like the system. Didn't really know what it was at the time, but it was the system. Didn't really fit in too good with it. And was looking for something more, knew there was something more. Just hadn't came across it, not the right time. Needless to say, zero business experience. Zero skills as far as that goes, period. All I had was a desire.
Which is very interesting. You talk about system, you talk about, school. So you've just finished your first, real year being licensed, contracted, being in business in any business environment whatsoever. It's funny because I talked to a lot of people, and I even watched my own brother graduate college with a business degree. He invested 4 years of time, emotion, money, everything that goes along with that. And I'm not, necessarily promoting, downgrading college or anything like that. I'm just looking at the facts. He graduates, ton of student debt. Christian, he's had student loans. He's looking for a job. Everyone wants experience. He finally lands a job working with Frito-Lay, which I'm 4 years younger than him at the time, just graduating high school, seeing him and all of his friends graduate college with debt and work for places like UPS, Frito-Lay. Now, granted, we're in, Brandon, Mississippi. There's not a lot of opportunity there. But just seeing the kind of jobs they were getting, and literally I was selling cars making more money than these guys were. Just graduated high school. So it's funny when you think about that in the traditional sense of it. So in comparison, you came on, and instead of 4 years of education, cut that down to 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of graduating with debt, did you incur any debt last year while you were getting your education in this business?
Not only did I not incur any debt as far as education goes, I actually made $42,000.
Okay, so now you also have experience.
Which is worth far more than any of it.
It's funny you say that. I often tell people, take away all the capital, or any monetary value that I've earned and have now, and I would be just fine because I have the experience that this business has taught me. But if you take away all my experience and give me $1 million, I'll be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something not to be taken lightly. But so now, looking at your current position, the job, quote unquote, that you have, how much will you earn this year?
My goal is $150,000 this year. Minimum, I'm gonna earn six figures.
Minimum of $100,000.
Yes.
Which, by the way, to be clear, I know you're used to living in our world, but there's not a lot of people outside of that. $100,000 is a pretty high mark for people, and that's awesome. And I'm tracking your numbers. I'm looking at your numbers. I know that's a fact. But if possible, in that same scenario, do you think that it would be worth it if it was possible, for someone to graduate college, 4 years, have debt, and walk into the situation that you are in right this second, moving, starting a whole nother branch, starting a base shop. You're going into business. You're already by yourself tracking. You'll make over $100,000 on your own pen, much less building an agency. Do you think that it would be worth someone going 4 years of college, graduating with debt, to be in the position that you're in now?
Wow, that's interesting. So usually if somebody would go to college for 4 years and get out and get a job, the type of income that I'll be earning this year would be the amount that they would work toward and climb the ladder to reach.
Most people I know start off about 35.
Exactly. So it was interesting you say that, because the dynamic of what I'm involved with is that absolutely, to answer your question, is yes. I would go through 5 to 6 years of school to get out with zero debt and be on track to make $100,000. But not just that, Nate. It's not just that. It's everything that comes with this business. It's the personal freedom of time. It's the personal choices that I get to make. And it's for me being in business for myself. So it's not just the money for me. The money is great. We all need money to live. But for me, it's about a lot more than that. It's about calling my own shots. That's what it comes down to for me, is picking a target, and I decide whether or not I'm going to hit it. Nobody's stopping me or holding me back.
Awesome. Knowing what you know now, and you only have the experience of what you've been able to learn over the course of a year. Now, you are an excellent student. You did shorten your learning curve. You do read every day. You're constantly trying to raise the bar on yourself, constantly trying to get better. You always take responsibility. You always take ownership for your situation, and that is very inspiring to me, as well as a lot of other people on our team. But knowing what you know now, Christian, if you could jump in a time machine and you could go back to January of 2017, go back to whenever you were first launching this business, if there was one thing you would tell yourself, what would it be? If you could bring a message back from the future.
So the one thing I would tell myself, if I could tell myself just one thing, it would be go out and fail as much as you can. As much as you possibly can, go out there and fail and fail and fail. Because the more you fail, the tougher you're getting, the better you're getting, the more experience you're getting. See, what held me back in the beginning was the fear of that failure. But really, real success only comes from failure. That's what I'm seeing. So that'd be what I'd do, is just, man, go out there and just go out there and fail, you know.
That's awesome. And, you know, it's funny because so many, you know, working with as many new people as we do, and they have one toe in and one foot out. You know, they got one foot on a banana peel. They got their little white handkerchief in their hand ready to pull it out and wave it when something doesn't go their way. You know, and so many of us, it's just human nature to be so focused on the result, especially in the beginning, to be so focused on the result, because at the end of the day, in reality, it's the result that we're after. Mm-hmm. You know, but focusing on that, especially when you're doing something, you're embarking into something you have no idea what you're doing, that could be the most devastating as far as from a discouragement standpoint. You know, because of course you're not going to be good at it in the beginning. Anything worth doing is worth sucking at until you figure it out.
You're right.
You know, but one thing that, you know, we were very intentional about you know, when we were working with you, is planting that seed and changing that thought process of, look, I'm not out here, like, yes, I'm going to make $400, $500, $600 every time I sign a deal. Okay, and I'm going to have to go through a lot of them before, but, like, I'm going to accidentally make $400 or $500 signing somebody up, but that is not what's going to pay you money. Like, that's not what you're working for in the beginning. You're in a race for that experience. Mm-hmm. Because what was your best week starting out? Let's just say your first 6 months in the business. What was your best week?
I don't know. I think I made like $2,800.
Yeah, earned. But I'm like writing business.
Oh, my best week.
Yeah, you probably had.
Man, I can't even tell you.
$4, $5, $6,000. You know, in a week.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, 6, 7 apps for.
It was an anomaly. You probably didn't do anything the next week.
Right. Yeah.
Because you had a momentum problem.
True,
let's be real. Okay. But yeah, you go out and write $4, $5, $6,000 in a week, which is awesome. But where's that money now? You know, my first year, I wrote $26,000 on 21 apps. That was awesome, dude. I mean, I was at the high. But you know what that means now? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing at all. Like, none of that even matters now. What matters is the time I went 0 for 8, Mobile, Alabama, 0 for 12. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what matters is the experience that I've got, all the different situations that I was in. You know, all that, like, back to your point, all the fails that I had. That's what pays me money now.
That's right.
So I love that. So you're making, all right, so here you are, you're making $10 an hour, making enough to pay your bills, and honestly, not really doing any better or any worse, really, than anyone in your environment.
Right.
Anybody that you're hanging out around, anybody that you're talking to.
True.
So, I mean, you're not doing any better, but hey, you know, there's people doing far worse than you. You know, what was it? Tell me what happened that made you change your mind. What made you make a decision? Like, what made you go for it?
You know what, Nate? I believe for me, you know, pain is one of my greatest motivators. You know, so motivation from necessity is one of the strongest pulls that is in my life. So let's say I get to a certain point to where I just can't, like, something's got to change. Well, that necessity is what drives me to do something different. because if I'm not a point to where I'm not uncomfortable enough to do something, I probably won't. Which is unfortunate because I could probably move a lot faster if it didn't have to get that way. So that's something I'm working on. But yeah, man, I was to a point to where, I started looking forward and I said, man, I don't have any college education. I'm making $10 an hour. Like, I'm 26. Where am I going? Like, what am I going to do? I knew I'd be okay because I believe in doing the right thing and working hard and treating people well. But I wanted more than that. So for me, it came when I truly made the decision to really want more than what life had just given me, what I had accepted, or what I thought I wanted. So I'll never forget. This is funny. I was in your apartment, and I was talking to you, and you were putting me on a book. It was from Andy Andrews called The Noticer. Great book. Recommend it for anybody. I probably should go back and read it again. It's an awesome book. But I remember you talking to me about another guy. You put a book, and it was Think and Grow Rich. It was by Napoleon Hill. And I asked you about it, and I don't know if you did it on purpose. Knowing you now, you probably did. But you said, no, I don't think you're ready for that, Christian. So, as soon as you left, I said, all right. So I went on YouTube and I searched Napoleon Hill and I started listening to him. And I can tell you, thinking back, it sparked something in me that was already there. It had just been dormant. But it sparked something in me, and from that day on, I've been on a continual search to improve. I can't explain it. It just, it was powerful.
Well, what happened was you fed yourself a little bit, and you fed yourself a little bit more, and you created an appetite for growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I want to shed light on, though, is those defining moments. Like, so many people haven't made a decision. They're always, it's like they never want to go all in on anything, so they can kind of know in the back of their mind that, like, if I don't make this happen, if I fail, like, you always have a plan B, you always have an alibi, and it's hard for us to just fully commit to something, because what if we fail? We always want to have that excuse. Well, I really didn't, because, like, it's very defining to know, like, anytime that you've ever really gone all for it, and if you didn't make it, like, that's what people are so afraid of. But it's interesting because there's never been anything that I've ever attacked that I was really all in on and could look myself at the end of the time period that I was working towards that and know with 100% fact in myself, I could look myself in the mirror and know that I did everything that I could have, that I didn't hit. Which is interesting about the whole concept. But, there's always those defining moments where you decide. It's like I make a decision to make a decision. And personally, for me, my real defining moment was whenever I decided to take 100% responsibility for my situation and all of the choices and all of the decisions that I made prior to that got me to that situation. That's what it was like for me. Did you ever have such a moment? And if not, what was the defining moment for you, where you just decided you were going to make a change?
Well, this funny thing is, I've actually thought I've made that decision a few times in my life, just like I'm sure everybody has. It's going to be different this time. Wait, starting tomorrow, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to change these things. But the reality is, everybody knows what they should and shouldn't be doing. Everybody knows that they should be doing this to get better. I heard Tony Robbins say, when your wants become needs, that's when there's a change. So, like, when I wake up and I need to do something different, that's when I'm going to do something different. I think that's what separates a lot of people. But as far as the defining moment, man, it's hard for me to answer that. I don't necessarily know there was one defining moment. For me, I believe it was an accumulation of defining moments. And for me, all it started was one small change at a time. One small different way of thinking at a time. One small discipline at a time. One small thing that I add to my self or schedule at a time. I don't think it's just this one big explosion. I wake up tomorrow and I'm just this awesome person. I believe first it does start with that desire, because you have to want to do it. But Jim Rohn said, affirmation without discipline is delusion. So I could sit here and want things, but if I don't do anything different, by law of nature, the same things are going to continue to come up in my life. So real change has to take place physically. So for me, it's just like, not this overwhelming thing of like, this huge sky opening up, heavens opening up, and like me having this great grand revelation. It was more like over time it was accumulation or a buildup of these things that were happening and these changes I was making. And then as I was doing that, some other things were falling off of me, allowing me to become more free and free as I took different steps forward.
Wow. One thing I've been wondering that I haven't ever asked you was, and I remember pretty vividly where we were and what things were going on, and this was still whenever you haven't made the transition to be a partner. This was whenever you were still on the support side. What did it feel like and I'm not talking about your immediate response, because whenever I first confronted you and Matt and I said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to a new market. We're moving to Nashville, Tennessee. I talked to Barry, CEO, and this is where he told us to go. I said, I'm moving to Nashville to start a market from scratch. We don't know anyone there, have no idea what's going to happen. And I'll always be impacted by your immediate response, because you didn't flinch. And you said, well, you're not going by yourself. But after that, when I wasn't there anymore, when it was just you and your thoughts, and you had the real decision to make, like whenever you had to sell yourself on it.
Right.
I mean, you're just you haven't even passed your insurance license test. I don't think you had any doubts that you would pass your test, but man, there comes a whole lot more bag of doubts moving to a foreign place you've never been. What do you remember what that felt like? Like what were you thinking? What did that feel like?
Well, what I thought at first was I may have spoke too soon. It was scary, man. You grow up, and I hadn't been, hardly out of the state. So you grow up, you see people get a job, you see them grow old, raise a family, and stay put. That's what you see. So
right.
That's what you feel is the right thing to do. And you know what though, Nate? It was something in me. Something in me. Like I believe that people, and this is my opinion, I believe that people should seek adventure as opposed to security. So you live one time. I mean, go see all you can. Go mess up all you can. If you're not legally or morally wrong doing something, give it a shot. I just had that conversation with myself. I remember sitting in your office and I was just like, you know what? I live one time. And what's the worst that could happen? I love doing that. I love playing that out because it makes me feel a whole lot better about things. So what I did was I played out, okay, so what's the worst that could happen here? I move up there, I fail completely, and I come back home. Well, hey, I just started dating a beautiful girl. I got good folks. My parents live down there. You know, I'm not going to die.
Right.
You know, what's the worst that could happen? I just go up there and get my butt kicked and learn some lessons.
Grow a little bit.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, like, adventure is the thing, man. Like, do all you can. You know, help as many people as you can. Earn as much money as you can. Learn as much as you can. You know? Like, because when it's over, it's over. Because I knew, and this is what did it. I knew if I didn't go, I would look back and regret it. And that would be worse for
Absolutely.
me than me going and coming back because I could feel okay about that.
So much more often we regret the things that we don't do.
That's the truth.
Versus the things that we do. And you talk to, you know, and we get the pleasure of talking with, you know, senior citizens, and I love sitting with old vets, and I love asking them questions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they've been on this earth longer than me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny what I've found, you know, in talking to people and seeking wisdom and seeking knowledge from people is very rarely have I ever ran across somebody who regrets something that they did, because the things that happened to us and the things that they've done is what forged who they are. You know, so a lot of people wouldn't, you know, like, it's not like they want to go back and change something, but they regret the things they didn't do.
That's
they
right.
regret the shots they didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, I mean, you're in the same situation again. You know?
That's true.
Phase 2. You know, you're making the leap to go into a new market where we don't know anybody, where you don't know what's going to happen, and build it again. So what's it feel like now?
Honestly, this time, that's not the same person moving up there that moved here.
Right.
So this time I'm excited.
Hell yes.
You know?
It's like when you're going in our business, just to relate it, it's like that first time you went out, like your first run.
I'll never forget it.
Laying everything on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have much money as it is. The little bit of money you do have, you invested in leads in a hotel and gas and food.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to make it happen. And that feeling when you're driving back, knowing you did it, you pulled it off.
Yeah, that's unlike. I can't compare that to anything else.
But it's the Friday night feeling before you go that gets me too. But the more runs you go on, the less the feeling is. Like, because you know the numbers are going to work out.
Yeah.
You know your skill set's up high enough to where you'll be fine. You'll always have a return. But you're right. There's something scary about packing that truck up and driving across the country. You know, but I think you're also right in that it's not as scary the next time.
Well, I'll tell you, and the thing is, when your belief in yourself is low, that's when things get scary and fear and doubt creep in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't proven to myself that I can win. That's what's different this time. I don't care where the hell I go. I know I'm going to win.
Well, you have a skill set that no one can take from you.
Period. And that's what this year did for me mostly. That education we're talking about. It equipped me to now go and be able to be self-sufficient anywhere I choose.
Stuck in your home.